When you don't have 20 minutes to watch a full review, when you're not looking for a how to play or an hour-long playthrough, and let's be honest, when the interest is a little or two, that's why we have 6 small box games for you. Hey, I'm Alex Backlund from Board Game Co., and this is another 6 small box game review roundup. We have 6 games we're going to be going into today. Some of these might be sticking around, some of them not so much. As usual, a bunch of small box games, a few quick notes and opinions around all of them. We have Cascadito from Bitewing Games, Marina Knizia. We have Contra Banter from Skybound Games. I don't know the designer on this one. Is it on the box? I don't know. A designer by Phil Gross. We have Epic Roll and Write Experience, or more specifically, Paper App Dungeon from Lucky Duck Games. We have Unfold, we have Tether, and we have Sweet and Spicy. I'll note that I got into less details. We went through all of them. But let's go ahead and dive into these as usual. Let's just start off with the Paper App Dungeon. Let's go ahead and try to get this pencil out of here because the pencil is locked in there. We also have our little Paper App Dungeon rulebook over here. The general idea is we have over here a P6. It's a D6, but it's a pencil, so it's a P6. You roll that, and you have over there, we have 3. Beautiful. We got a little 3. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but we have different numbers on the side over here, so as you roll them, one side will show up, the right side, and you can use that to go ahead and start winding your way through the dungeon, because we have over here this little app over here, which will give you this little dungeon that you're trying to move around. So you're going to be trying to go ahead and move, determining the distance and determining which way you go, as you slowly bounce around from like location to location, moving that many distances, starting to go from location to location and trying to gather the various things you need along the way. There are a whole lot of dungeons through over here. You're trying to survive, trying to collect treasure. It's starting with a certain amount of HP, ending, going ahead and scoring yourself as you do that. The general idea is it's a little solo puzzle. It's a solo puzzle where you roll this P6, decide how far you're going to move, and try to bounce off the walls and gather the treasure and avoid taking as much damage as possible as you move from level to level. It's a little procedural or semi-procedural. I don't even know. Are these randomly generated? I don't know. I don't know if this is the same puzzle if you buy this every single time or if it's different. Like, Dungeon 1, is that always the same dungeon? Like, Dungeon 2, Floor 2. Is that always the same from Notebook to Notebook? I'm not actually sure. I say this because I believe the original creator of this, I think it was procedurally different, but I'm not certain. But either way, yeah, you have, 100 or so. No, not 100. You have 43, maybe 44. 44, maybe 45. 44. You have 44 different floors to go through in this dungeon over here. Basically gives you a little small adventure to go through over here. As far as rating and review on this one, it's cute. It's cute. That's my review of this. It's a cute little system. There's nothing wrong with it. If you're stuck in a plane stuck on a plane. If you're in any kind of situation in which you are, in a small space and you want a little solo game to go through and you don't want to use your phone or an app or all that, I think Paper App Dungeon has you covered. But for me, I don't know if I found the actual adventure you're engaging in to be interesting enough. It's cute, but it's cute for like 3 floors, not necessarily the kind of game that's cute for a whole lot of floors. To me, a cute concept. You might like it more than I do. For me, it's a 2.5 out of 5. I think I like the idea of it, but the actual puzzle I didn't find engaging enough. That's going to be Paper App Dungeon. This is popping up from the bottom. From there, let's go ahead and move on to Unfold. Unfold, I don't know if I can really show you this one. I'll avoid showing this one because it's like an escape room, so I'll minimize any degree of what you see over here. But this is basically an escape room that unfolds. That's why it's called Unfold. The escape room unfolds. You can see over here on the back, you're going to kind of open this up, and then sheet by sheet, this slowly opens up and unfolds as you go page by page through this adventure, dealing with the various puzzles along the way. If you've played any of the escape room games out there, the exit games, the unlock games, there's so many of them, I don't even know. I mean, Exit and Unlock are the 2 big boys in the room, but there are so many escape room games out there. This is another thing in that genre. There's nothing wrong with this. I've gone through one of these so far. I haven't actually played Dark Story. I've played the Pyramid one, or whatever it's called, I don't know. But I think it's a cute little escape room puzzle that gives you things to challenge you, gives you little things to go through, and you have to deal with the puzzles. I would say I found it good enough as far as the actual puzzles. I mean, in general, when I'm ranking escape room games, the way I tend to look at it is, were the puzzles compelling enough that I felt rewarded for solving them, and were they so difficult that I couldn't get past them without the hints, and or when I used the hint, did I feel like, I should have gotten that myself, or was like, there's no way anyone would have gotten that. And so in that genre, I'd say this rates pretty well, because in that particular aspect of difficulty, at least the one I played, and again, I haven't actually played this one, I played the Pyramid one, but I'd say that one, it felt like I felt rewarded for solving the puzzles. I didn't feel they were so difficult that I couldn't get past them. I'd say it hit that nice sweet spot of difficulty level for me, where I didn't feel it was I don't know, either too difficult or too easy. So in that sense, I liked it. But I can't say it is strongly compelling. I think I do prefer the exit or the unlock in terms of the way they do it. This is a nice little gimmick in terms of the unfolding aspect, but it's a fine escape room game. It's a 3.5 out of 5. I've played better, I've played worse. The Unfold series, 3.5 out of 5 from Alley Cat Games. From there, let's go ahead and dive into Sweet and Spicy, which is actually a, I guess, more kid-friendly version of Spicy. Now, I played Spicy a long time ago. I played Spicy quite a bit, actually. I really enjoy the game, but it's been a while since I played it, so the full differences, I don't know fully what they are. I think there's like a wild card in here that's slightly different. I'm going to focus on the general idea of what Spicy is, or Sweet and Spicy is, but if you are looking for a strong differential between Spicy and Sweet and Spicy, I'd have to play Spicy again to really give you that breakdown, so I can't speak strongly for that. But the general idea of this is a bluffing game where you're trying to get rid of your cards. And to that end, you're going to have a whole hand of cards over here, or these different decks. Let's go ahead and shuffle these up over here, or whatnot. Let's just shuffle these up. You're going to have a hand of cards, and you're trying to get rid of it. And then players are going to go ahead and get 5 cards, and you're trying to get rid of your cards. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have different players, well, having their own separate hands. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and play a card. Now you start off with any one of the suits over here, but you're playing a card, and you have to start with a 1, 2, or 3, but you're allowed to lie about, well, something. So for example, I can go ahead and say, this is a 3 pepper over here. Now at any point, players can continue to play, and someone else has to match the suit. I played a pepper, so they have to go play a pepper as well. That has to be at least higher, and the numbers go through 1 to 10. The tricky part is you can lie about whatever you want, but players, when they call your bluff, they have to say what are they calling your bluff on. So for example, if somebody wants to call my bluff right now, they can either say I'm calling you on the number, or I'm calling you on the spice, in this case the pepper. In this case, so if somebody said, hey, I think you're lying about the spice, I think it's not a pepper, I would flip this over and show it is in fact a pepper, but it happens to be a 5, so even though I was lying, you didn't call my lie correctly. That's the general premise of the game. When players are wrong, they're going to draw more cards. The goal of the game is to get rid of as many cards as possible. I like Sweet and Spicy. I like the original Spicy as well. Again, there's some wild cards. I'm not going to get into like every aspect of this, but I overall like the puzzle of the game, not puzzle, the bluffing of the game, but more specifically, I like the fact that in this game, you can lie, but still not be caught for lying. Effectively, you might realize that I'm trying to lie, because when you don't have a card, if I don't have the right card, especially this is true when you're down to like 1 card, if you go ahead and play the 3 blue or whatnot, and I have 1 card in my hand, and I'm like, I'm playing a 5 blue, what are the odds that I actually have the right suit at that time? What are the odds I was actually able to play correctly to that suit? So you have to try to figure out when do you want to call someone on their bluff, because I could pass and draw a card instead, or if I'm calling my bluff, I draw 2 cards. So you're trying to play this game of getting rid of your cards, but specifically the thing that's charming about the game is the fact that you can lie and still get away with it, even if you're called on your lie. You have to kind of read the players as far as how they're going to lie. If you like games like Coup, if you like games like Skull, like Cockroach Poker, I think this is up your alley. I enjoy it quite a bit. This is going to be Sweet and Spicy, a 3.5 out of 5. From there, let's go ahead and cover another one on this side, and then we'll move to the other side, to the other 2. We have Tether. Tether is a game of creating connections. Now, this is a 2 to 4 player game. There's a team mode, but I'm going to focus on the 2-player basic mode of the game. And to that end, the general idea of this game is you're going to have a hand of cards. Let's go ahead and just deal some cards over here. I'm not really focusing on the exact number or whatnot. You're going to have some cards. I think you should have 5, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to have cards that are set adrift in space. So you have 1, 2, and 3. These cards are adrift, and then players are playing across from each other, and you have to be mindful of the fact that what you're doing is you're trying to create connections, but from your side of the table. So for example, if this is my hand right now, I actually have a lot of these need to have been better shuffled from the last game I played, but for example, I can go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to play an 87, and let's say I'm playing as the horizontal player, and you'll see what that means in a second. So I'm going to play the 87 and the 88 and the 89. Keep in mind, by the way, it's 87, 88, 89 on this side, but it's 98, 88, and 78 on this side. And that matters because I only care about the side that I can see. My opponent only cares about the side they can see. Everything else doesn't really matter. Now, the relevance of that is right now I'm looking at another card, Adrift. I can grab this 86 over here, and I can add it to my orientation, and look at this. I'm creating a grouping of 4 cards. And that's going to be my turn over here. At the end of my turn, I go ahead and draw a card, and that's my hand right there. Meanwhile, my opponent takes a look at their hand, and they're playing vertically. They're not trying to create horizontal connections, they're trying to create vertical connections, and they're only using these numbers. You have to try to pay attention to those. So for example, this 68, they're going to play the 67, and then pull this group to it. Okay, pulling a group to the numbers is basically how you're going to be scoring points over here, because once you create a grouping of 6, 10, or 14, you're going to score for that group. Now in general, you can play 1 card, and then attach as many cards as you want to that group or grouping of numbers. I don't think they could play the 77 in reaction to the 78, but I don't think that actually helps us right right now, because in general, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create the longest horizontal or vertical connection, depending on which player you are, and this wouldn't actually do anything for me because it would keep the same vertical connection of 2, so perhaps I'll hold on to it for right now and see if there's a better way for me to utilize this. Now, eventually, when we go ahead and add another card to this group in such a way that it scores points, so for example, let's say we have the 90 over here, and we're going to go ahead and add the 90 over here on my next turn, then what's going to happen is, right now, I would say, look, it's a size 6, so I'm going to score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll score 2 points, and you're going to measure that on your little dials over here. Now, the game ends eventually when the players have, when you score size 14 group, or when one player is 6 points ahead of the other player, basically when it's too far gone, the game is going to go ahead and end. Whoever has the most points wins. The general idea is you're looking at your side of the cards, being mindful of the values on the other side, because that's what your opponent's playing off, being mindful not to create too many opportunities for them to score points, or while each player is trying to tether things through their own unique aspect of how they look at the cards and which orientation they're trying to spread. It's a cute game. I don't mind it. My biggest issue with it is that I just found that the gameplay was too procedural. I found that it's cute for sequencing, but I didn't think there was a strong sense of agency in the game. I felt like you mostly play the hand you're dealt. You mostly play with the cards you have. The only real decisions to me was really just about being mindful enough of when you're setting your opponent up for a good play. So you just have to be a little bit careful there, but ultimately I think this is the kind of game that it's more about the procedure than any real strong sense of agency. So for me, it was just okay. I'd give it a 3 out of 5. It wasn't a bad experience, but also just kind of lacked lacked any real strong sense of depth. From there, let's go to Cascadito, and let's end with Contra Banter, which is probably my favorite one in the series. Now, Cascadito is a tricky one because, and I still haven't decided if I'm keeping this one. The other ones, Contra Banter might stay, Sweet and Spicy might stay. These 3 are leaving my collection, and Cascadito, I'm not quite sure on yet. See, the general idea of this, and I haven't played through all the maps, which is part of it over here, and we do have the nice Kickstarter extras over here with these little, what's it called, what do you call them again? The writing boards. They're called, oh my gosh, what do you call it when you can write on a board? Why am I blanking on this? I can't remember the term. When you can write on a board, it is a term for that. I'm gonna either way. Anyways, you have these boards over here, these wipe-off boards, something boards, I don't know. Anyways, you have these boards over here, and this is kind of very similar to the Cascadero. I think this is Cascadito. This is Cascadito. Cascadero is going to be its big brother, designed by Rena Knizia, put up by Bitewing Games. This kind of gives you the same gameplay, but in a roll and write format. The basic idea is you're going to be rolling dice every single round. You're going to be rolling these dice over here, and using these dice, players are going to be using these dice to go ahead and fill in various, fill in various spots on their boards, trying to create connections. Now, if you've watched my review of Cascadero, you have a better idea of how this plays, but the basic idea, and there are differences in terms of the maps of how they operate, but the basic idea is you're going to be trying to move up these tracks based on creating connections once you're able to circle close enough to those. So for example, over here, I'll go ahead and create a connection point, and I'm starting to create these connections from blue. When blue goes ahead and creates yellow, you're going to be able to move up those tracks. So when you go adjacent to the spot for the first time, you can't, but as you create chains, you'll be able to move up these tracks, gaining bonuses. You're going to get bonuses as well for chaining different groups of colors, and getting these bonuses over here for having, for example, 3 of the same type. So if I've connected blue to blue, we're going to have all of those. What are these boards called? They're dry erase boards. Thank you so much, dear Lord. Anyways, basically, that's the idea of the game. You're going to be rolling dice, drafting those dice to go ahead and fill these tracks, using this specific map. Again, this over here is map 1, but you're going to have different maps in the game that give you slightly different rules or bonuses or things to go for, but you're basically trying to create connections between the points. It's very much the exact same gameplay of Cascadero, where you're trying to create connections between different points using your envoys represented by the little dot that you draw on the board, and then trying to move up various tracks to score points and get you bonuses, and then trying to score bonuses that are available to all players, such as these, or whoever gets there first, such as these, and seeing who scores better than the other players by the end of the game. I like Cascadito. The tricky part is, to me, it feels almost exactly identical to Cascadero. It feels very much the exact same game, to the point that I definitely don't need to own both. This is like the same game, just in a roll and write format. A drop more simplified, but, for better, I don't know. I don't know which one you'd prefer. I think Cascadero is probably the one you'd prefer if you were just looking for the best version of the gameplay. But if you're looking for a smaller box game that's a little more accessible and a little more portable, I think Cascadito does a good job. I like Cascadito. Rating-wise, it feels very much in the same place. I gave Cascadero a 3.5 out of 5, and I'm going to give Cascadito a 3.5 out of 5 as well. I think it gives me the same general gameplay. It gets like a tiny, minuscule point extra for the accessibility, the travelness, the small size, all those things, and it loses half a point because I think that the overall gameplay of Cascadito, not even half a point, loses like a tenth of a point, because I think the overall Cascadito gameplay is probably slightly more interesting in terms of the way you can actually play it out. This is a bit more limited by that roll and write format. Overall, good game though. If you like Cascadito, I think you'll like Cascadito. I think they're very much playing in the same field. And lastly, we have Contra Banter over here. Contra Banter from Skybound Games is one that I did not expect to like as much as I do, but I very much do like this one, although it's complicated as far as, I don't know how often I'll play this one, what I'll see play. That's kind of where, well, we'll talk more about this in the rating part. But we have these prompts over here, and you're also going to have your hand of cards. So for example, let's go ahead and just divvy up my 3 cards over here. And the goal of the game, you can play it with as little as 2 players. Does the box officially support 2? The box does officially support 2, although it goes up to 15. I wouldn't want to try that. I'm going to put these cards in front of me, and I have 3 cards in front of me. 3 words that I'm trying to slip past you. Now, I have 90 seconds, and we're going to play a game right now. So I'm going to play this game. I'm going to take the prompt. You would choose the prompt. You would ask me a question. And my goal is to slip these words into the conversation. Now, when you're playing at a higher player count, you can have teams, so you can play off one another, which is a different, a little more, I guess, engaging to do it that way. But right now, we're just going to do this. What is your favorite beverage on a hot day? I chose the first question, and now I'm going to take a, I don't know, imaginary 90 seconds. I'm not going to time myself, an imaginary 90 seconds, and see how far I can get in here. So, what's my favorite beverage on a hot day? Now, again, the goal is that I'm going to try to spend 90 seconds answering the question while slipping in these words. And your goal is to catch me as I slip in the words. You're going to have various cards over here that are going to basically, I don't know if these are the right ones, but you're going to have different cards in there that are going to, you're going to flip them over. You have a certain number of shots to kind of interrupt me and be like, hey, I think it's that word. We can't do this really the way we would in real life, but still you'll get a sense of me just trying to go all over the place and see if you can catch the 3 words that I threw in there. And the tricky part, the thing to note, is once you start playing this game, you will get better at intentionally throwing in words that don't always perfectly fit to throw people off your trail. Now, with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and start over here. Now, on a hot day, hot days are, oh my gosh, hot days are so intense. Summer, in particular, is just completely over the top. Like, you're sweating, it's so, the heat, the summer sun beating down on you, just giving you like a sunburn and just like causing fevers and outbreaks, and like, it's just so much. And so that's why my drink of choice is lemonade. I think lemonade is just amazing. You kick back on your lawn chair, you throw your feet up in the air, you grab, I don't know, a little tablet and start watching your show, slippers on your feet, and just having a good time as the summer sun beats down your back with lemonade down your back. Honestly, it's so relaxing. You'd almost feel that you were just somewhere else. You're sitting back there as you just like lie back further in your chair, reclining further back, grabbing some sunglasses, throwing them on, just letting yourself relax, almost like as if you're just in a therapy session, just enjoying yourself, having a good time. As the therapist says, 1, 2, 3, breathe in, breathe out, and go through it. Now again, I don't know when the 90 seconds is up. I'm not really timing myself over here, but the words were fever, therapy, and slipper. Those are the words I threw in. Now, I intentionally threw other words in there that didn't perfectly fit. I threw in, I don't know, sunburn and reclining and sunglasses and other words that might intentionally seem like I'm trying to insert words into my answer, because that is what I'm trying to do. Although this ends up being a very interesting experience, it works a little better as well when you have teammates to play off, where I can start turning to you and you'll start prompting, and it works really well as far as just giving you a fun little experience of trying to figure out what the words are. Now, the interesting thing about this is whatever words you get, there's a whole scoring system. I'm not going to heavily get into it, but as you go through the game, words that you weren't caught by your opponent, you still have to use the next time there's a prompt. So I may have used the word fever in prompt 1, and if you didn't catch me, then the next time the next question comes out and the question is, I don't know, what's something you would do on a first date or whatnot, I now have to throw fever in there again, and you're cognizant that 1 or 2 words might be leftover. So those odd words I threw in might be leftover again, which, by the way, when you start playing this game on an even higher level, I'll intentionally throw sunglasses into my date question again, because I'm like, ooh, I'll specifically throw in my edge case words that I used the first time round into the second time round. Contra Banter is delightful. It really is a delightful experience that is very unique, not like most games I've played. It's not a game I'm going to table often. It's a very specific game that works well with a large group of players, but it works well with specific groups of players, because if you have some people who are good at this puzzle and some who aren't, you're not going to have a good time, which makes it a very
it's a very hard one for me to rate because a part of me wants to give it a 4 out of 5, but I think I am going to taper it back down to a 3.5 out of 5. I do really like it, but it is a very situational game for me, and that does have me a little bit on the fence as to where exactly it lands. This is one I could see myself bumping up the rating over time if it did get enough play, if it became one of my go-to party games. I just don't know if it will. I think it's really, really clever and really well done, but it is specific enough in terms of the types of people I would play it with that I'm a drop more reserved on it. So I kind of want to give it a 4, but I will give it a 3.5 out of 5 for right now, and over time we'll see if that rating adjusts. In any case, that is going to be 6 small box games for you. We have Cascadito, Contra Banter, and Sweet and Spicy coming in at a 3.5 out of 5. We have Tether, where was it? Tether, no, I think a bunch of them were 3.5 out of 5. We also had Unfold was also a 3.5 out of 5. We had Tether coming in at a 3, and we had Paper App Dungeon coming in at a 2.5 out of 5. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed these 6 small box game reviews, and as always, I hope you have a good one.